Hey there. Imagine waking up one morning to find out that the food assistance you depend on might suddenly change because of a single court ruling. That's exactly what happened last week when a federal judge in Texas made a decision that's sending shockwaves through the SNAP benefit system. Millions of Americans who rely on food stamps are now holding their breath, wondering if they'll have enough to feed their families this November. But here's what's really interesting. While some people are panicking, others are actually finding themselves eligible for even more assistance. The thing is, most people haven't heard about this yet, and the deadline to act is coming up faster than you might think. In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what this court decision means for you, what actions you need to take right now, and a few surprising loopholes that nobody's talking about. Before we dive in, if you want to stay updated on critical benefits changes like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. It really helps the channel, and more importantly, you'll never miss out on information that could affect your benefits. Now, let's get into what this court decision actually means. On October 25th, Judge James Henderson ruled that the USDA's pandemic-era calculation method for SNAP benefits violated federal law. This might sound like boring legal stuff, but stay with me, because this affects your November benefits in a huge way. The ruling essentially states that the emergency allotments that many families have been receiving since 2020 were calculated incorrectly, and now there's a scramble to adjust the numbers before the next distribution cycle. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you checked your SNAP benefit amount? Because here's something most people don't realize. The way your benefits are calculated is about to change dramatically. The new formula isn't just a simple adjustment, it's a complete overhaul of how they determine what you're eligible for. But here's where it gets interesting. While the headlines are focusing on benefit reductions, there's actually a silver lining that most news outlets aren't covering. The court decision included a provision that creates new categories of qualifying expenses, which means some families might actually see an increase in their benefits. I'll explain exactly how to check if you fall into one of these categories in just a minute. First, though, let's talk about what you need to do right now. And when I say right now, I mean today, because waiting even a few days could mean the difference between maintaining your current benefit level and seeing a significant reduction. The USDA is implementing these changes on a rolling basis, starting with the November distribution cycle, but there's a small window of opportunity that most people don't know about. You're probably wondering how much this could actually affect your monthly benefits. Well, the numbers are pretty shocking. Based on the new calculation method, the average family of 4 could see changes ranging from a decrease of $200 to an increase of $150 per month. But here's the crucial part. Which side of that range you fall on depends entirely on the actions you take in the next few days. Let me paint a picture of what's happening behind the scenes. State benefit offices are currently scrambling to update their systems to comply with the court ruling. This means there's a lot of confusion, and unfortunately, some eligible families might fall through the cracks if they don't take specific steps to protect their benefits. Remember those pandemic-era emergency allotments I mentioned earlier? Well, they were originally scheduled to continue through December 2025 in most states, but this court decision has basically thrown that timeline out the window. Now, each state has to individually decide how to implement these changes, which is creating a patchwork of different deadlines and requirements across the country. Here's something that might surprise you. The court decision actually found that some of the USDA's previous benefit reductions were improper. This means that if you've seen your benefits decrease over the past year, you might be eligible for retroactive payments. But, and this is a big but, you have to know how to properly request a review of your case. Let's talk about the documentation you need to gather. This is where a lot of people make mistakes that end up costing them hundreds of dollars in benefits. The new ruling has changed which expenses qualify as deductions when calculating your benefit amount. Things like certain medical expenses, educational costs, and even some transportation expenses that weren't previously counted might now help increase your benefit level. I've been diving deep into the court documents, and there's an interesting detail that most people haven't caught yet. The ruling includes a provision about household composition that could be a game changer for many families. If you have adult children living at home, elderly relatives staying with you, or even roommates, this could affect your benefit calculation in ways that weren't possible before. Now, let's address something that's causing a lot of anxiety in the SNAP community, the income thresholds. The court decision didn't directly change the income limits, but it did affect how income is calculated. This means that some people who were previously just over the limit might now qualify, while others who were barely eligible might need to provide additional documentation to maintain their benefits. You might be thinking, this sounds complicated. How am I supposed to figure all this out? Well, that's exactly why I'm making this video. I've spent hours analyzing the court decision and consulting with benefit specialists to break this down into actionable steps. And here's something crucial. The timing of when you submit your documentation can make a big difference in how quickly these changes affect your benefits. Let's talk about the appeal process, because this is where you might be able to protect yourself from unwanted changes. The court decision includes a 60-day window for beneficiaries to appeal any reductions. But here's what most people don't know. Filing an appeal before any changes take effect can help maintain your current benefit level while your case is being reviewed. I want to share a story that illustrates why this is so important. Last week, I heard from Sarah, a single mom from Ohio, who was one of the first people affected by these changes. She almost lost half of her monthly benefits because she didn't know about the new documentation requirements. But after learning about the appeals process, she was able to not only maintain her current benefit level, but actually qualify for an increase due to some of the new allowable expenses. Now, let's talk about state-by-state variations, because this is where things get really interesting. While the court decision applies nationwide, each state has some flexibility in how they implement the changes. Some states are being more generous with the transition period, while others are moving quickly to implement the new calculations. Here's something that might affect your strategy: the timing of your regular recertification. If you're due for recertification in the next few months, you might want to consider doing it early to take advantage of certain grandfathering provisions in the court decision. This could help you lock in more favorable terms for the next benefit period. The court ruling also addressed something called broad-based categorical eligibility, which sounds complicated but could actually simplify the process for many families. Essentially, if you receive any other form of government assistance, this might affect how your SNAP benefits are calculated under the new rules. Let's talk about resources and where to get help, because you shouldn't have to figure this out alone. While state benefit offices are overwhelmed right now, there are several nonprofit organizations that have set up hotlines to help people navigate these changes. I'll share more about these resources in just a moment. One aspect of the court decision that isn't getting enough attention is its impact on emergency allotments. Even though most emergency allocations ended earlier this year, this ruling creates new possibilities for emergency assistance under certain circumstances. Understanding these provisions could be crucial if you find yourself facing a sudden reduction in benefits. Now, here's something important about verification requirements. The court decision actually simplified some aspects of the verification process, but it also added new requirements in other areas. Knowing which documents you need to provide, and more importantly, which ones you don't, can save you a lot of time and stress. Let's address the elephant in the room. What happens if you miss the deadline for these changes? While it's always better to act quickly, the court decision does include some provisions for retroactive adjustments. However, the process becomes much more complicated if you wait too long. I want to talk about mixed status households for a moment, because the court decision includes some specific provisions that affect families where not all members are eligible for benefits. These changes could actually increase the total benefit amount for some mixed status households. Here's something practical that you can do right now. Start keeping detailed records of your expenses, especially in categories that weren't previously considered for benefit calculations. This documentation could become valuable if you need to appeal or adjust your benefit amount under the new rules. The court decision also addresses how benefits are calculated for elderly and disabled individuals. There are some new provisions that could be particularly helpful for these groups, including different income calculations and expense considerations. As we wrap up, let me summarize the most critical points. First, these changes are happening now, and waiting to act could affect your November benefits. Second, while some people will see reductions, others might qualify for increases under the new rules. And third, knowing how to navigate the appeals process could make a huge difference in maintaining your benefit level. Before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts on these changes. Have you already been notified about adjustments to your benefits? Are you planning to appeal? Drop a comment below and let's discuss how these changes are affecting our community. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you found this information helpful. Remember, we're all in this together, and staying informed is the best way to protect our benefits. And one final thought, if you know someone who receives SNAP benefits, please share this video with them. The more people who understand these changes, the better prepared our community will be to handle them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.